Hello, everyone. I hope people can see us. Lad, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, Sabrish.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're waiting for people to join. So if people are joining in, can you put your name in the chat for us so we can know you're here? Okay. Yes. Looks great. Yeah. So we're looking for people. Hello, everyone, again. If you're here, give us a shout. Put your name in the chat and let us know where you're joining from.
If you're watching a replay, also tag hashtag replay so we know how many people are watching the video after it's been live.
Okay. Yep. So I'm just checking the live stream here. It looks like we are live and we haven't. Okay. I think people can hear us. I'm getting a few messages on my phone as well. Okay, there's about 6 people watching so far. Okay. All right. So okay, so I think we'll get started. Just give a couple of minutes and then we can get started. That. So how's the weather like for you today? Saturday.
It's pretty sunny. It's pretty sunny. It's very warm in Minnesota right now,
Okay.
but as some of my peers and maybe your peers already know, Minnesota is pretty cold in the winters. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Like as an IT consultant, I work in front of my device for most part at home, but my family also looks outside from time to time. So um, they let me no choice. We'll be moving to warmer states in just a couple months, and we'll actually have a trip all across states. So
Nice.
our destination is Florida. So from the top north to the
Yeah.
bottom south will be a nice trip. How about you?
Nice. Nice. Yeah. So it's I live in Saskatchewan. This is a really cold province as well in Canada. It's starting to get cold. I think I can already feel fall is almost almost here. It feels like so. Yeah, and for me personally, I came from a plus 40 into a minus 40 kind of a situation when I came here to Canada. So I'm pretty used to this weather right now, and I think originally, though I was brought up in a warmer weather, I kind of like the cold weather as much. So
Mhm.
it didn't yeah, it wasn't hard for me to get used to the weather here.
Got it. Got it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, so I think it's 5:05, so let's maybe get started. So I'm just gonna
Let's go.
kick things off here. So welcome everyone, and welcome to the show. This is the Six Figure Consultant Show, where we bring you some of the best consultants from across the world who have not only gone to build businesses and build success for themselves, but they also are inspired by helping the clients that they serve, and they build successes. I mean, massive successes to the clients they serve as well. So I'm really, really excited to have this platform where we could showcase consultants from across the world who are masters of this skill, and we're going to learn a lot from these consultants who have utilized the skill to build businesses and their legacies, uh, you know uh, of what they have built in their lives using this skill as well. So I'm really excited to have Vlad here today with us. And Vlad, officially welcome to the show. And it is an honor to have you. I've heard a lot about you. I've learned a lot about you as well over the last maybe year and a half. And you're an inspiration for me, in a way. And I'm so grateful that you were able to make it to the show and you're here with us today. So
Sabrish,
welcome to the show.
it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, so we're gonna do it's just more of uh, an open dialogue, right? Open conversation that we're gonna chat about consulting and how things got started for you, and more of understanding how it is going for you today and what you've learned over a period of time and so on. And also for people who are watching, who are wanting to know more about IT consulting and the opportunities that the IT industry provides, and how they too can um, learn this skill and kind of transition into a consulting role in their own careers as well. So that's the highlight of today's show, and I'm really excited to get things started off. Uh, so Vlad, what are your thoughts on IT consulting? Um, you know,
Well, I do believe that, and we know that a lot of people that are watching us today are having their 9 to 5 jobs, right? IT
yes,
consulting is something a bit more than that. It's a bit more than just work. For someone, it's a passion. For someone, it's a purpose. For someone, it's a high income opportunity, right? But it's much greater than what we usually think of something that's called a job.
that's awesome. Yes. So who is Vlad, and how did Vlad kind of get into this consulting, Vlad? So tell us more about yourself, so we know what you are doing, and uh, how IT consulting plays a role in your life and your businesses and career as well.
Sure. Thank you for that, Sabrish. Um, my name is Vlad, and I'm a Ukrainian American entrepreneur. I'm originally coming from Ukraine. That's what I was born. That's where I was living for 22 years. But something happened to our country in the past years, so we had to move with our family to US. We had a long trip. We visited 6 countries in Europe through Canada, and we finally came here. I'm really passionate when I'm speaking about this here, about this story, because it taught me a lot of not only business, but really personal lessons about the core values that you need to have in your life and in the way you do business. The way I came into IT consultancy is from my job. I was working as a software engineer in a company, and I saw that I can realize my potential to a much greater degree than working in the company as a software engineer. I saw problems behind solutions that we are building, because most people that have a job, they think solutions only.
Yeah.
As a consultant, we always think problem first and then engineer solution for it. So this is how I started. I actually quit my job in 2020 to start this journey, and here I am in the US serving quite a few clients and making this world a greater place with technology.
Awesome, awesome. I've heard a lot about your story from, story on how you kind of moved from Ukraine to US, and when, things were happening, in Ukraine. I know most of us would have heard in the news and so on, and it's pretty devastating. And I'm curious to hear more about it in terms of how you managed to kind of move, and how, what made you to make this bold move, and how did you go about making that transition successfully. But I think before we talk about that, one of the key aspects of what you just mentioned about IT consulting, yeah, is the fact that yes, we're as consultants focused on problems, and it's all about solving problems for the clients. And it definitely resonates with me as well. And I too started off as an employee, right? So I started off as a business analyst, and I was working full time in a company as well. And eventually, there was a period of time when I decided to make a switch because of some of the constraints that I had in doing the right things for the clients that I served at that point in time. So that made me to come out and start my own consulting practice, so I could go independent and wholeheartedly help my clients who are looking for consulting services. So I'm glad that you did the same. And what most people don't realize at this point in time is they think that they're in a job and they're pretty happy there, and they're pretty safe there, so they don't essentially start looking out for opportunities in consulting. So lots of great things to discuss. So how about we start with what made you to kind of move from how did that move go from Ukraine to US now? Tell us something more about your journey there.
Yep. Thank you for that. I think as devastating as it is for me, for my family, for the whole country, really, and for the whole world, in a sense, it is also very, very insightful and very motivational for me. Because when it comes to, if you think about this, um, when I was back in Ukraine, I had a lot of problems, or at least this is how I thought it is. In reality, when this thing happened this February, I realized I actually had zero problems in my life. You see, when things like this happen, it gives you another perspective on your life, on your family, on your business, on your work, on your career, and it actually brings you back to your core values, to what you value, and it makes you appreciate things you didn't appreciate before. Um, the actual transition actually took us about 4 months, believe it or not. So from Ukraine to all across Europe to Canada to US, it took us roughly a bit over 100 days. And during that time, I actually realized that all of the struggles, all of the anxiety, and really all the fear that I had before wasn't something comparable to what I was experiencing at that moment. And that gave me a realization that nothing is super complicated, nothing is impossible. And if I was able to make that switch, to move that transition, and now speak with you here from the US, sharing a stage with you, it means that pretty much everything is possible, especially to get excellent at IT consulting.
Awesome. That's a powerful statement there. So I can only imagine how that must have felt for you, right, to make that move, and with everything going on in Ukraine at that point in time. Um, so how did you feel? Like, what was going on in your mind, and what happened to your businesses and so on? Like, was it so tell us more about that. Like,
And I know you also come not from the Canada, you also come from the other countries. So I'll be also excited to share this part of story from you. But when it comes to me, something the opposite happened of what others might think. Um, it would be obvious if my business would just collapse, right? If I would just lose everything and start over again. Um, Something opposite happened actually. When you want something badly enough and when you're truly committed to it, when whatever the practice that you do, IT consulting, coaching, whatever business or service you're in, if you're truly passionate on it, if it sets you on fire, uh, conditions like this really only enforce this fire within you. So
Yeah.
During that transition, my team grew in size 2 times. So we had around 12 team members, but as of the moment today, we have around 21 members, and we have more clients that we can serve, and that's really a privilege.
Yeah, that's interesting because typically, a typical human reaction is whenever something goes wrong like this, um, they often tend to contract, right? Like, I've rarely seen people who have pushed through some of the things like what happened in Ukraine, and it's really expanding during that point in time. So I'm really curious about how you managed that when everything was going on, in Ukraine at that point in time.
I think it is really important to have some more internal motivation, more than just financial independence, than more than just resources your work or your business brings you. Because the moment you get in a situation like I happened, this really set the money and everything really aside. Because when you are trying to save your life, to save your family life, money is optional at this stage. What you're trying to do is do what you're primary,
If
what you believe in, what you really want.
Yeah.
And for me, business and serving clients is one of those items. See, um, I even had a couple of conversations with my team members in the kitchen back in Kiev when we had an office, and they were asking me, Vlad, let's imagine you have infinite amount of resources. You've got it all. You've
Yeah.
got 6, 9, 10 figures in your bank account. You're set for life. Like, what would you be really doing? Are you going to do the same thing, working on the same thing, serving your clients, or are you going to, go surfing? And without hesitation, it's just instant is, I will be serving even more people because I find meaning in what I do, and I'm
Hmm.
genuinely passionate with it. This, if you have this within you, really nothing can stop you. It only makes it more. Uh, it only reinforces what you have within you. So when you're thinking about your career, about becoming an IT consultant, for example, you gotta think what motivates you besides money. Is there anything like this? Because if it is, you'll go through the hardest times, and I'm the living example of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty powerful, Vlad. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiration with us. I definitely agree. I think when the going gets tough, it's obviously those people who are really tough, who are the ones who get further in their life. And what's also interesting is when you said that you are looking for fulfillment in a way, right? And money to you comes secondary at that point in time, which kind of reminds me of the fact that we as human beings, right, we often run behind things, we want to achieve things, we want to earn a lot of money and so on. But, uh, in reality, like, I think it's the survival, right? So at some point in time when something like this happens, um, the first thing that we got to do is to take care of ourselves. We got to make sure that we live another day to kind of do whatever we can do. And also in that aspect, also taking care of the people who are depending on us at that point in time is also that most of us don't do when we are so bothered about ourselves, right? So I'm really inspired by you taking the right action, meeting with your team and then trying to keep them intact and expanding from what happened. And I think that's really inspiration for me, and thank you for sharing that.
One thing that happens when you start building your own team, when you start having employees. But by the way, I don't call them employees. I call them
Yes,
team members because
exactly.
they want to be a member. They want to have a piece of the action and also the responsibility that comes with being a member of
Hmm.
something bigger than themselves. And when you have team members like this, what happens is your extended family gets bigger, because it is not only my wife, my stepdaughter, and my dog that I'm taking care of. I'm also taking care of Vitaly, my project manager, and his family. I'm also taking care of Alexei, my team leader, and also his family. You see, when you start growing your real team and real people around you, also clients, right? When
Yeah.
you serve your clients, when they rely on you, you're also responsible for their well-being, because what you're building together, what you're trying to achieve, also impacts their life and life of people there around. So when you really start growing in the IT consulting industry, your family gets bigger. It gives you more responsibility, but also more motivation to be the best person that you can be.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Awesome. So, yes, that's interesting. And IT consulting is something that a lot of people are currently looking for, and um, most of them who to talk to, at least us, right? We have people reaching out to us about IT consulting and wanting to learn IT consulting and so on. Um,
Mhm.
what I find the most is they all are interested uh, to kind of learn this new skill, or kind of develop these high income skills. But the one thing that I feel stops most of the employees is they're pretty safe in their employment, right? So most of them kind of think that IT consulting is a bit more risky for them, compared to their 9 to 5. So a lot of them hesitate to go into consulting, and so what are your thoughts on that?
I want to say that I agree. I agree in a way that building your own business, building your IT consulting practices is more risky. I also agree that job might look more stable because what
Yes.
it gives you is it gives you the income that is predictable. It not so much depends on your skills than on the boss who's running the business, right? I totally agree with that. And I genuinely believe that IT consulting is not for everyone. But what I do believe as well is in order for you to realize your true potential, if you're working 9 to 5 and you believe you can be the better version of yourself and you can impact this world at the greater level, when you are working a job, it's one to one. The only
Mhm.
person you're impacting is the person you're working for. However, if you are a consultant, you have the privilege and the opportunity to impact much more people by serving clients all over the world. And it is more risky and it's not for everyone. But if you find yourself in a position where you think you can do more with your life, I think this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I hope people listening uh, kind of get this as well. So yes, consulting is going to be risky for you, especially if you've not done this before and you're doing it for the first time. But what's more riskier is to be in a job that gives you a predictable income, but at the same time doesn't guarantee you growth, or doesn't really, provide you much opportunities for you to grow into a better version of yourself as well. So if you're kind of stuck to that, then what's risky is your future that is going to be at stake at some point in time as well. So thank you, Vlad, for sharing that. And what I really wanted to actually discuss as well is with regards to IT consulting. How, why do you think someone needs to get into IT consulting today? Like, uh, we're talking about it here, and you and I are passionate about consulting and working with clients. But one of the primary questions that people have is, why should I get into consulting when, I'm pretty comfortable doing what I'm doing?
Mhm,
What are
mhm.
your thoughts on why people?
So I think going into your own practice is for people who are comfortable being uncomfortable. And I will explain in a second what I mean. Um, Having your own business, having your IT consultancy is a freedom. It comes with the cost of responsibility. Um, Me myself, when I was working my job as a developer, I didn't feel like I could realize all of my potential. I felt like I could do more, but the amount of energy and resources it would take me to climb that ladder in my organization just wasn't an ideal way for me to get there. It is simply it simply stops my growth. Now there are companies um, that are exceptional that allow you to do that, but most people are stuck in their jobs. At some point of your time, you're just thinking, why I'm even doing this? Something that was bringing me joy first now is a tedious task. Um, Becoming an IT consultant, especially if you're coming from the background related to it,
Yeah.
can give you a freedom in a lot of ways. A freedom of financial independence, freedom of being able to live wherever you want, have a healthy lifestyle, right? Um, it's freedom to also to do what you want, right?
Hmm.
And it's freedom to say no to things you don't want to do. See, when you are at the job, saying someone I won't do it
Yeah.
is not going to work.
Right.
When you are in power of what you do, that gives you ability to really work in the areas, to work with the people that you want to. And that, I believe, just even that single thing is worth to go for.
Yeah, awesome. So if I want to summarize from what you said, I think we're saying that consulting provides much more freedom and flexibility to work. I don't want to say whenever, but yes, whenever you want, and whoever you want to work with as well, right? And also, I think most of us, in a way, kind of tend to work in a job which, yes, it gives us security, but it also means that we're doing a job that we may not like, but we still have to go there because we are relying on that income that we get at the end of the month. So what you're saying is consulting does really provide that flexibility to walk away from, bad environment, bad people, and working in a job that you don't like, and so on. Is that right?
It is absolutely right. When we are at work, we're in this safe environment where there is a safety net,
Yeah.
right? But there's also a ceiling, something that we cannot break from.
Yeah.
When you're starting your own journey, basically what you're saying is, I'm willing to sacrifice my safety net to be able to go through that ceiling, to really the life to test my skills and to test my determination. I think this alone is, if this resonates with you, you should consider going that route.
That's fantastic. Yes. So, just a quick reminder for people listening in or watching, just go ahead and put your questions in the chat. And from time to time, Vlad and I are going to take some questions as well. So, if you have questions about IT consulting, feel free to add them there. Um, and yeah, we'll take up your questions and we'll feature them on this show as well. So one of the things that I did in my life, Vlad, when I transitioned from a full-time into consulting role, is I looked after. I went in search of somebody who can really help me to make that switch. Because what I realized was it was just not about making a switch because I wanted to, really make more money or get that freedom and flexibility. I also had to develop my mindset in that process that will help me to uh, get comfortable with the unknown. Right? I mean, consulting is all about problems, and everything we do is unknown to us until we learn more about it, and then we come up with solutions and so on. So, uh, how did you go about developing that mindset, and did you reach out to anyone for mentorship or guidance and so on?
Yes. The most scary thing when people have in their minds when they're considering to transition from jobs is what I'm going to do next, right?
Yeah,
Because it literally feels like you're escaping the warm, cozy, very well lighted room
yeah,
with all the people that you work with and you were taking care of. You wasn't in charge of this thing, but you were taken care of. And when you go through your own journey, it feels like a huge and very long tunnel, really dark tunnel, cold one, with some creepy noises, and you have no idea what to do next, right? And the question is, how can I get a bit of clarity? How can I know what is the path that can actually help me with this.
Yeah.
Because I would be lying if I were to say that success is guaranteed when you want to start your own practice, your to become an IT consultant, right? It is absolutely not guaranteed. What I can say for sure, it is guaranteed that you won't get your max potential if you stay at your job, right?
Yeah.
So the thing that I did in the beginning is I found a mentor. Before I actually even escaped, before I was officially resigned from my job, what I did is I was already having someone who went through that route,
Yeah.
who was in the same place where I was 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Depending on how much of a gap between you and mentor.
Yeah.
And what that person can give you is their experience, how they handle the situation. They can give you the framework. They cannot walk it for you, but they can shed some light on this dark tunnel so you can feel more comfortable and get that confidence to push through.
Okay, that's fantastic. And do you still have somebody who coaches and mentors you, or is that just for a short period of time?
No, oh
Yeah.
yes, oh yes, oh yes. The best entrepreneur is a lifetime learner. The
Yeah.
best teacher is a lifetime learner. If you stop learning, it means you stop growing. You can learn from books, of course, but throughout my career, I had I had a few mentors. At different stages, you need different people that can guide you through the right direction. But there wasn't a single point of time where I didn't have someone I could call my coach or my mentor where I can go and ask for advice. It wasn't a single day of it. I always had someone for that.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, so likewise, I've had many mentors in my journey as well, and one of the most fascinating things about having a mentor and a guide is really that sounding board, right, as well, right? For me, I had to to talk through things in order for me to figure out things on my own as well, and really that mentorship and coaching is something that really helped me to cut through so much noise and so much of lower self issues that I came across during that point in time. So yeah, mentorship is
One
definitely, yeah.
one thing my current mentor says is if you lack your own belief in yourself, borrow mine because I believe in yourself. In
Yes.
the darkest moments, and they will happen to everyone throughout their career, where just nothing works, right? You tried multiple times, you can try for weeks to do
Yeah.
something, and it just doesn't click. To get that sale, to get that project completed, to get that connection, it's just a wall. You feel like you're at the wall, and usually people give up when they are like the closest, when there's 1 inch left to grind before they can before they can explore what's in it for them.
Yeah.
This is the things where we start doubting ourselves. And I think having mentor can give you that clarity and can give you the confidence because you know someone went through this already. And if they know you're inch away and they say to you you're 1 inch away, it gives you that the last push, the last breath to make it happen. So I think that's one of the biggest things that the true mentor can give you is the confidence to proceed.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm thinking that people are wondering, what's IT consulting got to do with all these that we are talking about? And I just want to say to people that this is the foundation of anything you do, right? It's just not about having a technical skill, but it's the other aspects of the skills, and most importantly your mindset what plays a major role when it comes to consulting, because without your mindset, without having a proper mentor and a coach, um, is your life is going to be hard as a consultant, and what happens is eventually you will try, you might fail, or you might even give up even before you try. So that's why we're talking about it here today.
If you really think about this, if consulting, the tech skills, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily consulting, but if the tech skills, um, the hard skills was the only thing that was sufficient to make yourself a consultant, it means everyone will be a consultant. Everyone you meet at your workplace, everyone you know is proficient at this.
Yeah.
Why they're not a consultants? And they probably thought about this. They've all thought about this, but there is so much more to becoming an entrepreneur than just having the technical skills. And
Yes.
this really sets your frame, that sets your mindset, that sets you as a person, to build your confidence, that builds your persuasion, your sales skills, and the implementation comes only after that. That's where your technical skills will kick in.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad I found somebody um, who thinks just the way I think. Is I usually come across people with, they might come to me and say, "Hey, I'm a project manager, and I'm a really good project manager. I've got this technical skill, and I want to go into consulting with that." And I tell them, "Okay, you're really good technically, yes, but you still have to learn so much, and all these skills are going to help you execute what you've learned in your technical skills." So I'm really uh, it resonates with me so much already, and yeah, you can see me excited, getting excited with that. So thank you for saying that.
That's probably what I would tell myself 3 years ago if I would come back. That you need to look for a person
Yeah.
before you look for their skills. Because in the beginning, when I was building my team as well, I was heavily relying on just let's do the technical interview. I'm going to give them a test assignment. If they complete it, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
They're good. What I found is it's not the case. It's not the case
Yeah.
because when you're there isolated in what they do, it's fine. When you start introducing them to other people, when things start getting a bit south, when there's some challenges and the team needs to survive and to figure out the solution, that's where the soft skills really kick in. That's where the leadership comes into place. That's where the ability to listen to people, to understand, um, to be human, and all of those things combined to build a culture really. And even for my team, when I hire, I always think of these skills right now
Yeah.
before we even consider the technical skills.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that as well. Yeah. Yeah. So so what other aspects of consulting, do you think is pretty popular these days? Like, since you've especially moved from Ukraine and the market that you were in when you were in Ukraine, and now in the US, how do you see the markets being different?
So um, I have an insider view into markets of um, Eastern Europe, the mentality. And I can say from my experience, the markets of US and the markets of Canada are the most open markets you can imagine for yourself. And it's not only coming from just the fact that the nation itself is pretty wealthy, pretty self-sufficient, pretty entrepreneurial and innovative. It also comes with the mindset. Like there are even the case studies, the scientists reading the whole articles about it, that psychologically and historically, people in the North America continent um, are more willing to take the risk in favor to get the better outcome.
Mhm.
People from the post-Soviet countries, for example, they're just simply more conservative about things. They're more preserving what they have, and they're not ready to expand and to risk it, which is the opposite for the US and Canada. So if I were to say one thing, it is the most open market and the greatest possibility to explore for IT consultants.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome, and so yeah, so I agree with that as well. And the market here is currently, I know with everything happening in the world right now, they're talking about recession and things like that. But in spite of that, there's plenty more opportunities in North America that I can see as well. And there's a lot more demand for consultants than it used to be like a couple of years ago, right? And I think what happened in the last 2 years changed everything in the IT market overall, and businesses wanting to go online and everything becoming digital has substantially increase the demand for IT consultants. So I'm really on the lookout of the best consultants who I can get, onto my team, to help my clients. So
One important thing you said is the best consultants, right?
yeah,
When it comes to market, through the hard times when there is a recession, this is where the best people with the best motivation and true inner motivation to help people, this is where they shine. This is where it actually is an opportunity. Because when you think really about it, when the market goes up, it's um, it's a festival, it's a celebration. Everybody wins. You can be mediocre in what you do and you will still get some results. Just because the market is up, it's a
yeah,
celebration. However, when market goes down, this is where all the mediocrity just gets off the market, because there is no
exactly.
place for excess. There is no place for playing games. This is where the best people in the industry get everything. Did they just get all the market share?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. And yeah, I did also realize, because I was helping a few clients make that
Mm.
switch, from paper-based organization into like a digital organization during this pandemic situation. And I realized that most of the clients that I was working with at that point in time, were seeing all the vulnerabilities, the gaps and skills that they had for over a period of time, right?
Yeah.
So the skills that were lacking in their organizations weren't evident until something drastically had happened and they had to make that switch to digital. So that's when a lot of that came up, and they really realized the importance of skills and having their employees kind of upskilled and trained and all that, right?
I see it in the way that any market change is a possibility.
Hmm.
When the COVID hit, lockdown, people need to switch to remote, people need to switch to digital.
Yeah,
If we have skills as IT consultants to train, to help our clients to train their people to go remote, to install these systems in place, to make them adapt, we become the best people in the industry and we make our clients the best people in their industry. So it's not only doing yourself a favor, but also all of your clients. And I think the core message here is any change is an opportunity as long as you're willing to stay agile, as long as you're willing to learn the new skill and
yeah,
adapt, you will always be on top.
yeah, yeah. I like that as well, and especially the word agile, because it's a very popular word here in Canada, at least, and I've heard people and organizations adopting agile. Um, how is your experience with agile when it comes to your organization and things you do with the clients?
One thing I learned is I'm truly blessed we were working in the same systems we work for our clients in our own organization. We were setting up the communications, the workflow, so that it's compatible with being remote.
Hmm.
Because when things happened in my country this year, we had to switch overnight. So it wasn't a project of
Hmm.
switching over 90 days. It just happened. It just happened on Thursday. I remember it as I woke up today.
Yeah,
Thursday, something happens, we get the news. We'll take one day off on Friday, and on Monday we're already working, and we're working with full force. There is no half a team of missing. They don't know what they do. They have tasks. They're excelling in what they're doing, and
yeah.
I think staying agile is just makes you survive when the biggest winds start to blow.
Yeah, it's just the way to go, I guess, going forward. Yeah, so one of the interesting aspects of being agile is it just, you're, so again, this is where your mindset and everything comes into play, because when you are ready, you really don't need to look for like additional skills and capabilities. You can already function and pivot with what you have, as long as you understand, what you have and how you can use that to kind of adapt to changing needs and situations and so on. So Yeah, I agree with that as well. Um, all right, so don't see any questions in the chat yet. Um, do we have any questions, people? If you have any questions, make sure to put in the chat. And if you are considering IT consulting as your career, and if you're looking for inspiration from people who are already practicing consulting and who are successful and who went on to establish their own businesses, this is your opportunity to ask questions and learn, what they're doing so differently and how they've been successful so far. So make sure you add your questions in the chat, and we'll feature your questions here in a bit.
Sabrish, what if one question that I'm curious because I see some of the people are watching us today.
Yeah.
If I'm working at my 9 to 5 job, I might be an IT consultant in the firm or might be doing something similar to that.
Yes.
If I'm just considering to become IT consultant, I'm researching topics, I'm watching this live with you and me. If you were to give this person one advice on how they can make the decision for themselves, because IT consulting is not for everyone, but how can they really understand whether this is something they can do? Like, what would that advice be?
Yeah, I think my advice to them is this, right? So the way I started looking at things is I can work 40 years in a job and I can retire from there, right? And if let's say my goal is to retire comfortably, I need to have a substantial amount of income that I need to make during those 40 years of my working, right? Most of us work in an organization or maybe do jobs at different organizations from time to time, knowing that we can't really make that amount of income, right? So what we're doing is we're not trying something new or newer ways, and we kind of think that this is what we can do at the max. When something like IT consulting comes up or any other alternate forms of making an income or making a living, at the same time impacting people, right? Is something that people usually don't consider for themselves, either because they're not aware, or um, they're just not interested in going for that, right? For them, I think this is one of the key aspects of me promoting consulting, is because you can work 40 years in a company, but you can only grow as much, right? Whereas consulting gives you opportunities beyond expectations by working with different clients, by working on different domains, different initiatives, different people. And all of that, I think, will exponentially increase someone's abilities and skills. And overall, they get to become a better version of themselves. So, and at the same time, they get to make a lot of money as well, right? Compared to if you're doing a full-time job. So I am a big promoter of that, because of all these different things that it brings, and also lets you earn a bit more than a full-time employee working in a job. So yeah.
One thing I wanted to learn your opinion on is we both came from jobs, right? You were also having a job at some point of your time, just like I did. And the question that I see a lot from people who are curious about starting their own entrepreneurial journey is how much experience do I need to have? I'm
Yeah.
only having this 2 years of experience working in tech.
Yeah.
Maybe it's early for me. Maybe I need to work for 20 years
Yeah.
because maybe like, what's your take on this? Because I think we're on the same page with this.
Yeah, I believe that you need to have some experience, yes, but you don't need experience to start something new, is what I believe. I think there's beauty in learning as you go. And um, as long as you can have a reliable community of like-minded people who are doing this, and as long as you can get somebody to help you, showing that path and help you make that transition safely, I don't think experience plays any role there. Anyone can become an IT consultant if that's what you're asking. You don't need to have experience. You don't need to have you know as much qualifications as well, and that's something you will eventually develop. And all you need is your mindset and you wanting to start something new. And that's the challenge that most people have, because they listen to their lower self, and like we were talking about some time ago, and they don't make that switch and that transition, and as a result of that, they miss out on a lot of opportunities that they could have gotten if they had taken a chance.
One thing that's on my mind, and I completely agree with what you said, is I think you never truly know before you try. Um,
Yeah.
I was learning my first income skill, which is a software developer. I was reading books, I was watching YouTube videos. I was kind of progressing. I felt like there is some progress in it.
Yeah.
But the moment I got my first job, my commercial experience, I think in the first in the first month, I got I got more experience than a year of my so-called learning, where I wasn't applying what I really was learning.
Yeah.
And what I realized is it is the same for starting your own entrepreneurial journey as an IT consultant, right?
Mhm.
And the next question is, but what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work, right? What if I try and it doesn't work?
Yeah.
But what if you try and it works? You see,
Exactly.
one thing that people don't understand is it's not jumping off the plane yet. When you want to start learning about it, and when you're working your job, uh, and I will be curious to learn your take on this. But it doesn't mean that the moment you want to become an IT consultant, you need to immediately get to fire yourself from your job and just kind of go all in without any plan B at the moment. Going without plan B is good if you have some safety net, if you
Yes.
have that in case everything goes wrong. But if you don't have such a privilege, like I did, by the way, is when I started my journey, actually, I had zero savings at all. Like my first commitment to pay to my mentor was the last money I was having for this month. So in
Hmm.
order for me to pay for the next one, I already had to produce some results. So I was still working at the job. And the way I did it is before my income from IT consulting become greater than my full-time job, I was still staying there.
Okay.
Yes, I was investing more hours than the usual person, but
Yes.
what it gave me is a smooth transition. Because let's say it didn't work, I would just stay at the job and I would keep trying again.
Yeah.
So one thing I see is it's not necessarily a switch, it's more of a transition. But I'm curious to know what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that as well. Also, having a plan is always good, right? And that's why you need somebody who's already done that, and who can guide you through this transition. Because obviously, yes, as consultants, we do we're not promoting or we're not asking people to just go take risks blindly, right? So one of the things that we do as consultants is we evaluate the risk and we try and bring down the risk and understand more of how much we can tolerate for ourselves, right? So we don't end up being affected by the risk. So that's something that I would definitely encourage people if they are looking to make that switch into consulting. I definitely feel that having somebody who's already done it and showing you the path and leading you through different things will definitely help you make that switch, in a much easier way.
I agree. I think I think Christiane has a question in the chat.
Yeah, let's bring up her question. So the question is, did you find it difficult to convince your first client? What would you say it's more difficult to make a client come back? There's actually two questions here. So, Christian, Christian is actually one of our students as well, and I'm glad she's here. And she's an avid learner, and she goes all in when it comes to learning, and she's a passionate learner as well. So I'm glad she's asking questions here. So let's maybe dissect this question. So there's two here. We'll
Mhm.
look at the first one. Did you find it difficult to convince your first client? Um, so, Vlad, what was your experience with your first client?
To be honest, I think it wasn't. I think it really wasn't. Um, I know it's not for. I know it doesn't happen for everyone, but I've actually got my first client within the first 3 days when I started looking for them.
Yeah,
It was a tiny gig. It was a tiny gig, and I wasn't looking for the big check. I wasn't looking to become a six-figure consultant from day one. In my
yeah,
head, yes, but on paper, I was sketching up. I wasn't expecting to become successful overnight.
yeah,
So what I was looking for is to become a professional consultant, right? If you think about this,
hmm
the difference between amateur and professional is $1 in transactions. The moment you get official
right.
client, it doesn't have to be much. But the moment you get that first deal, before when you help them with something, you become professional. And I think that just changes some gears in your mind. So um, I would say if you've never done it before, it will take some learning curve to learn how to communicate to people to close those deals. But um, it's everyone goes through this. What's
Yeah,
your take on this?
yeah. It's very interesting when you said the word communicate with the client. I think that's what makes all the difference, right? Communicating with the intent and communicating with clarity. And I think that's where most of us really struggle. Um, so convincing your first client, I think if you have built it up in such a way that um, you are positioned as somebody who can help the client solve a particular problem, there shouldn't be any problems for convincing, or with convincing your client. The client should already know that you are somebody who can help them with that problem, and they should already be convinced in the first place. And also, I like the fact that you pointed out that you didn't start as a six-figure consultant, right? So I think that's really, really important because most people think that, oh, if I do this course or if I get the certification, then I become a six-figure consultant right away. And that's something that that was beautifully said, because that most of us don't go through that phase. It doesn't happen for us right away. It is something that we have to evolve, and as in the process, we have to learn and adapt ourselves. So uh, that's yeah,
Well said.
I completely agree with that. And so looking at the next question here, in the same question, would you say it's more difficult to make a client come back? That's an interesting question.
Yep. Yep. Sabrish, would you like to address it first?
Sure, yeah. I believe in the power of experience, right? So there's, I teach my students this. So everything you do is an experience for a client. And this is where I was able to differentiate myself because I very early on in my career was operating like a brand even before I had a personal brand. So I was paying more attention to a client's experience when they were working with me as opposed to just focusing on what I was delivering, right? I really paid attention to how I delivered my consulting service to a client and how I was helping them through the process of finding resolutions and improving their current state and so on, right? So I think if you focus on experience and end of the day, if the client is happy and delighted because of that experience that you focused and you provided everything to the client, there shouldn't be a question of whether the client will come back or not. I've had clients from my past become my very closest friends, in fact, and I really think that that's what changed everything for me. Yeah. What
Well
about
said.
yeah?
Well
What
said.
about
Well, I believe that getting a client come back should be easier to get the
Mhm.
first touch point if you've done everything the right way. Because and we assume that the technical skills of you, me, and our guests are at the high level. We are experts in consulting, in development, in whatever the service we want to provide. We assume that as given. If not, we need to level up our technical skills. But if that is given and we put it aside, what's left really is making someone understand and trust that we will deliver. I think the most complicated thing in IT consulting is not the service itself, but dealing with people, making sure that you get on the same page, that there is no trust issues, that you're aligned with person, we aligned with your expectations. And I think once that's established, really, and when it comes to delivery, it it should be much easier. Like
Yes.
if you are working your job and you know you do a great job, just imagine that every day you wake up, you have 10 people messaging you asking you to do a specific thing that you're expert in, and
Yeah.
the trust is already built in. Would that be easy? I
Yeah.
think it would be, right?
Yeah.
Because we mastered a tech skill, and it's not a problem. It's like on our job where we get constantly the workload. So
Yeah.
we're masters at fulfilling it,
Yeah.
right? And what we need to switch is to learn to communicate it, and then the delivery comes easy.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. I think that beautifully said as well. So, what I'm thinking is, people also think about IT certifications and things like that, right? So how do you think IT certifications play a role in IT consulting, and if so, like, do you have any IT certifications that you might have done
Mhm, mhm.
yourself?
Um, I think it comes to the basics of human nature, of human psychology. There are a few things that people rely on when they're making their decisions
Yeah,
subconsciously.
yeah,
And there are a lot of things that come into play, but one of them I want to pay attention to is social proof. Social proof is a mechanism that allowed all humans in the world to make quicker decisions when
yes,
it comes to trusting someone,
yeah,
right? Without always having a time to go through a research and spend a week trying to select what we want for dinner, where we want to go. So what do? We open Google Maps or any restaurant reviewing app and quickly search through the reviews. What people have to say about this person, about this restaurant, about this service. Uh, what is said about them, what is someone else said about them, and we will base subconsciously our decision making on that. Certification is borrowing someone else's authority who is higher than you to get that social proof to your clients. So it
yeah,
basically means that if someone else that has a higher authority certified this person to do the job, it creates this subconscious trust. It's not a deciding factor. It's not that you've got certification and you don't to do anything else. That is not true.
yes,
But it really gives you confidence and your clients confidence that you can actually deliver. Because remember, we need to establish that trust that you're on the same page. As moment that is done, we can excel.
yeah. I 100% agree with that because I feel that most of us are so carried away by certifications. So we go after courses and things like that, and we get those certifications, and eventually we realize that those are not, the only things that you would need to be successful, right? And the way I started understanding this is when I was practicing consulting, back in the days. I used to have, I worked with a lot of consultants as well, right? And these consultants come with pretty high um, credentials. They have a lot of certifications. They have all kinds of credentials they come with, but yet, most of them struggle. Uh, in their practice, they're good in technical skills, which is what the credentials give them, and the clients who hire them look at those credentials and they bring them on board, and eventually they're not able to deliver what they're supposed to deliver, right? So that's when I started realizing that there's probably something going on between having an IT certification and really delivering that technical skill that you learn from that certification. And yeah, so that seems to be a huge gap.
I think certification is definitely a tool of persuasion, but tool can
Yes.
get as good as the person operating it, right? So
Yeah.
it is definitely helping you to proceed, to stand out in the market and the competition, but that's not the only thing that will help you close the deal, that will help you move forward and serve
Right.
the client.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So today, our we also have a consulting business, and one of my criteria is yes, we will look for certifications, but if somebody is qualified without a certification, we still look at those people, right? So we don't just go by IT certifications, and I understand that it gives you an opportunity, it gives you a foot in the door, but that's about it, right? And if you still can articulate your experience and what you've learned from your experience to a client, you're not, you're not good in my perspective, right?
No,
So
yeah. Badge is as valuable if you can put it to use, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's a good thing.
that's
If there
right.
are two people that are identical, badge would help you stand out, but you gotta be at that level of skills, of communication, persuasion, sales, the technical skills as well. If that's
Yeah,
it, the badge will help you win.
yeah, that's right. So yeah, so we talked about people who don't have experience can get into consulting. People, who are working for a long time as full time, people in the IT industry can also become an IT consultant. And what I really want to also mention here is people who are working in, let's say, banks and other non IT institutions. uh, they can also get into IT, and they can also become, professional IT consultants. Is something that I want to highlight here. And consulting, like I said, it doesn't only need consulting skills; it also needs skills from your previous experience and your previous jobs that you might have accumulated, and it all comes together when you are consulting. So, what is your take on people who are like completely new, uh, to the IT industry?
Mhm, mhm.
Have you come across people like that, and what's your experience with that?
Oh yes, oh yes. I think if anything, it gives you an edge, and hear me out on this. When you have an experience in banking and you
Yeah,
start to learning IT consulting, and then you find a client that is a big bank. Now, they need a specific help with their systems, with their processes.
yeah,
And if there will be two competing people to get a project, to get a client, one of them is you, has extensive experience with banking, who's been working there for 10 years. And then there's other, just a professional consultant. They're just masterful of consulting, but that's about it. I mean, it's
yeah,
pretty obvious who's going to win the trust and actually be better and delivering results. Having past experience from other industries allows you to have that edge, and you can also go that route, but just from the consulting perspective. It doesn't mean you need to switch everything. You can use your experience from the past to reinforce your
ab-
persuasion, to
absolutely,
reinforce your value to clients.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. So I think I'm just checking if there's any more questions that we can take here. So looks like we don't have any further questions. So Vlad, let's talk a little bit about what you do within SaaS Insider. So could you tell us more about what SaaS Insiders is all about?
Yes. I found that there are a lot of people in this world who are passionate about building their SaaS products. Uh, People that see a problem in the marketplace, people from past experiences from other industries, from the banking industry, from the marketing, and they know exactly what is the gap. And they know there can be a SaaS product that can fill this gap and create huge value for the marketplace, but they're not technical. They don't have the skills of building the team, managing developers, because developers speak JavaScript, they don't speak English. And this is really where SaaS Insiders shine, because what we do is we help those entrepreneurs really strategize the perfect solution for the problem. We, as we mentioned with you, we start with the problem in our mind and we reverse engineer back the solution to this problem. And we just combine design, execution, and support for the product so that the person can really focus on their zone of genius, which is marketing and promoting this thing because they know exactly the pain points. And we just help them build the perfect product for the gap that they're trying to fill.
That's awesome. And so, do you mainly work with entrepreneurs or startups, or like what's your typical market like?
Um, Currently, we are working with the pre-seed slash seed stage of startups
Okay.
that have some capital to work with. They can invest into building their product because it takes a team, it takes a professional team to make it work. Sometimes we work
Right.
with individual entrepreneurs who want to bootstrap it, but who have resources to make it work.
Okay. Okay. So, so in the pre-seed stage is what you're looking at.
Seed slash pre-seed
Oh,
stage would
okay.
be ideal.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So, so what happens when you let's say you build a product, right? So, I think for most people who are listening in, um, what is a SaaS product? And I think that's something that we, most of us are not very clear here. So, what constitutes a
Mhm,
SaaS product?
mhm. SaaS is an acronym and it stands for Software as a Service, meaning that is a digital product, a digital software that you're using that you're renting
Yeah.
from the company on a subscription basis. If you're old enough, you know that long before software was sold in on disks, on drives. It's something that you install, you buy once, you install and you use it forever. Hopefully, if it doesn't break. Um, the market has changed, and now people build software they sell as a subscription. So, if you're using Netflix, you're using a SaaS product because Netflix is a SaaS product. If
Yeah.
you're using Zoom, you're using SaaS. If you're
Yes.
using any software, any service that you pay for monthly, annually, quarterly, you are the user of the SaaS. My clients are the ones who want to become the owners of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So I think SaaS comes under product development, basically, right? It's more of a product slash solution development kind of a thing.
Oh,
That
yes, yes.
that's yeah. Yeah, and that's I think become popular as well as more and more organizations are looking for alternative solutions, right? As opposed to the massive enterprise solutions that they are currently used to in the market. So yeah,
I think I'm a living example of you don't have to be IT consultant by profession to become one. Because my job was a software engineer. And what
yeah,
happened is I could use that knowledge to go heavy in the implementation part of
hmm,
actually building the product, not also planning and designing it and just consulting, but also implementing it. It gives me an astonishing edge over people who can just consult and just recommend what to do next, right? We can actually go and we can actually implement it. So it even reinforces our statement about whether you need to have a 10 years of experience in IT.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so so SaaS insiders, like so what's happening with your business right now? So I'm pretty sure you're very busy these days, and so how is it going for you?
Um, it is good. Now that we are serving mostly of US clients and I'm here, I can serve them even at a greater stage. I'm privileged enough to also have partnerships that emerged from serving my clients, from building the SaaS.
Yeah.
We have currently a partnership. We have a company that's called Cloud Key, which I'm a co-founder of. It started also just as helping someone build a product, consulting them on that. But we saw greater opportunity, and I think this is what other IT consultants who are listening to this can also realize that it's not only the project opportunities when you become an IT consultant. It's also partnerships, and it's
Yeah.
much more than that. Only if you're open your mind for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So it's just not limited to projects or operations. It's much more beyond than that, right? So it's about entrepreneurship. It's about collaborations, joint ventures, and so on. So I think the consulting skills really forms that foundation to anything you want to do as an entrepreneur eventually, and all those skills that you accumulate are going to help you, in that journey as well. So I know it's a little over an hour, so I really didn't realize it was an hour already. So, Vlad, I think we'll take a couple of questions here, and then we'll probably wind up with the show here in just a bit. So, one question before I really end this is what if you have to start all over, right? What would you do differently if you had to start all over?
I think if I would start all over, I would just tell myself to go in even more. Um, when I was just getting started with this, I think I spent about half a year before I really made the decision that I want to make the switch and I want to become an entrepreneur. I was playing, I was trying, I wasn't confident about this because it was a side hustle for me. This is how a lot of people think of it. So the amount of
Yeah,
where your energy goes, uh, this is where the results come up. So if you put enough focus into becoming the better version of yourself, about learning more about IT consulting, I think that will propel you, that will save you that 6 months, 9 months, that might save you 1 year that you will spend, just dabbling around it. So if I were to start over, I would say one thing I would do differently is definitely dabble down. I already had the mentor from day one, so that's really important to have it.
yeah.
But to do it differently, I would just go all in.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. Yeah, so one thing I would do differently if I have to start all over again is to identify the right mentor and a coach. I think that's something that I now regret that I should have done much earlier as well. Although I had some mentors and pretty good ones in my career, but it wasn't a continuous process for me, right? So they were on and off, and I didn't really work with somebody closely as much as I wanted to at that point in time. So if I were to start all over, I think I would have a mentor for sure. I would find my like-minded people who are already either already in the journey. They're trying to make a switch, or they are also interested in making this switch. So I think those are the two things I will definitely do, and I will adopt continuous learning as I go through this journey as well.
Mm. I think one point that really is interesting before we could wrap up, because I think it might be beneficial to the people listening, is how do you know that someone is the right mentor for you? How
Hmm.
do you think you would go about saying, like, this is the person I want to invest the next 1 year together? I want to learn with them. I want to grow with them.
Yeah,
How do you think that that should happen? If I'm looking for a mentor right now, what I should pay
yeah,
attention to, how I can decide that?
yeah. I think so. If you want to look for the right kind of mentor, I think first is you have to find somebody who is visible, right? Like you can't, if somebody has done it and um, been there and done that, I think that person has to be visible. And the second thing I would look for is their credentials, and the amount of time they spent doing this, and what they have done in the past as well. And also look at references that I would get. Enough obviously, like if somebody is well known, or if somebody is out there putting themselves out there, they're probably putting themselves out there because they have a track record of something that they have achieved as well. So for me, beyond everything else, I think it is about that relationship, right? I should be able to connect with that person, and they should be able to take me in as a mentee. I think those are the two things that I would look for.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So I think we're pretty much towards the end of the show here. If there's any last final questions you want us to take, you can add to the chat. If not, um, if you are looking to get more information about how you can transition into an IT consultant, or if you want to learn more about IT consulting and what you know how you can get that started, you can definitely reach out to us as well at any point in time. And I'm just going to add the link here in chat for you um, to reach out to us. So just give me 1 second here. Um, okay, I think I missed that. So let me. Okay, and here we go. So, in order for you to check the eligibility, you can go to our website at itcinternational.com, and we're a online institution focusing on helping individuals transition into professional IT consultants in the market, and we also have a consulting business through which we help you to make that switch and work with our clients to provide consulting services to them as well. So make sure you go here and check us out, and also follow the prompts as you go through a recorded webinar that talks to you about the opportunities professional consulting provides. And you would also be able to set up a discussion with us to talk about your goals and aspirations and how soon you can get yourself transitioned into an IT consultant. So if you want to follow Vlad and I, you can do that as well. Vlad, where can they reach you at if they want to reach you?
Well, the best way to learn about what we do is to find my LinkedIn. I'm mostly active on that. I think what we can do is we can leave our links in the comments section to this episode so that people can follow
Okay.
us and learn more about what we do.
Okay. Yeah. So most definitely we can do that. And if you are wanting to follow me, my handle is here on the screen as well, and we will also leave our credentials in the chat for you to follow us. From. So just a quick update for everyone who's watching. We also have a few more events coming up. So our next event is going to be um, one with a another expert, a master consultant as well, who's went on to help a lot of individuals become IT consultants. Her name is Eno Eka, and she is one of my business partners as well. And we're excited to announce that we will be together live talking about a day in life of an IT consultant. That's happening on September 17th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So yeah, and you will see more communications coming out for that event as well. So continue supporting us, continue following us. Vlad, any last words from you before we wrap up?
Sabrish, it was a pleasure to have to that you have me on the show, and I think that anyone who's interested in learning whether IT consultant is for them, they should definitely go for that and at least just see whether this is something that they can do, because
Yes.
it is it is a journey and it is a hard journey, but if you really want it, you can achieve greatness not only from you but for all the people that you serve around. So, and
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me on
Yeah.
your show.
Yeah, thank you so much. And most definitely well said. So, yeah, if you are watching, if you have what it takes, we're here to help you. So, make sure you reach us, via our website, and make sure that you reach out to us to discuss how you can get started in your consulting journey. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and chatting with you very soon. So, for everyone out there watching, thank you so much. And Vlad, it was a pleasure having you here again, and looking forward to doing more of this going forward and in the future. And uh, yeah, we'll see, and we'll see how the next opportunity unfolds uh, here. So thank you so much again for your time and on a Saturday. So have a good rest of the weekend.
Have a good one.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.